everyone, and welcome to the second episode of the Hero Story Garden. My name is D. Grant Smith. I am, yes, the storytelling Superman, and my co-host is the lovely, beautiful, amazing, and inspiring Heidi Marke, the gentle rebel coach. Heidi, thank you for being with us today.
Thank you for having me, and thank you for making me watch more films and watch Captain America and Captain Marvel to my work task list. Thank you.
Well, it's such a, so Heidi started doing this thing and she communicated it to me, and now I'm doing it too. I think you told your kids something along the lines of, I have to watch Captain Marvel for work.
Yeah.
And so now
I had to. There was no inverted commas. I had to watch it for work.
So the only person other than a couple of my friends that I've shared this with is I'll just tell Tigger, like, hey buddy, I'm gonna go watch Captain America for work. You want to join me? But like now that you're saying it, I'm saying it too, and it feels so cool because I think for the longest time I wanted to be able to say I'm gonna watch superhero movies for work, and now it's like, no, that's the real deal, Holyfield.
It is. It absolutely is. It's brilliant. Morning, everyone. Woohoo!
Good morning, everybody. Good morning, Jason and Isabel and Melissa. Thank you guys for joining us on the first 2 minutes of our show today. I really appreciate you guys being here with us. We're going to dig straight on into our theme this time is what makes a superhero a superhero. And instead of looking at one character or one film, intuitively what came to me was let's explore Captain America and Captain Marvel, the two captains of the MCU. And Heidi and I met yesterday to go over everything we were going to talk about today, and we both agreed that this was probably the best choices of characters to really illustrate the point that I feel is very kind of obvious and intuitive, but also something that we're not necessarily looking at on the front end, because we can typically think that in order to be a superhero, sorry, I've got something in my eye all of a sudden. In order to be a superhero, you have to have some sort of next level superpower. And we can take ourselves out of the equation immediately by looking at our perceived flaws. But in actuality, what is inside of each and every single one of us, all of you guys that are here with us and everybody that's watching the replay, what is inside of each and every one of us is superhero level awesomeness. But will we choose to embrace our true selves, or will we let other people dictate to us who it is that we are and the way that we operate? And so those questions are really illustrated and highlighted in these two films that we're going to explore. So without further ado, let's dig on into this. I think this is the right way to do that. Nope. So still figuring out some of the mechanics of this, but before we dig into everything, I want to say hello to Sierra and Mike and Chasen and Isabel, and Phil Davis is with us. Phil, dude, so good to see you, man. And I just appreciate all of you guys joining us here. Shout out to the Hounds of Business community. It's something that Heidi and I are both a part of, and all the folks that are commenting in here are all members of the Hounds of Business community. We appreciate you guys and we love you guys. Thank you so much for being a part of the show today. Before we dig in any further to this, I want to give just a little bit of a introduction in ways that we might not have done so already, especially since now more and more folks are coming in. Once again, my name is D. Grant Smith. I am the superpowered self-concept storyteller. What that means is I help you redefine the story that you are writing and telling yourself about who you are and who other people are and what the world is and how it works and how God operates. All of that stuff is your self-concept, and it determines the life that you live and the story that you experience in your life. When you look at your situations and your life circumstances, if there are things in your life that you don't like, it's connected to some root story that you have within you. That's been my story. Rewriting my own story is how I've completely transformed my life. And if that's something that you want to do in your life, I'd love to be a part of your journey and help you rewrite your story. Now, once again, my co-host is Heidi Marke. She is the gentle rebel coach, going from overwhelm to freedom, to live.
Freedom! Overwhelmed freedom. Helping you live your life your way by ditching the overwhelm, because overwhelm's a trickster. Everybody thinks we just have to have it if we want a full life. Nonsense. We're gently rebelling against the nonsense. You have to push your poor mind to think through overwhelm into exhaustion with loads of pressure, carrying the weight of the world on your shoulders. Rubbish. Time to gently rebel against all that nonsense and live your life in a way that works for you, which means you get to have a clear mind where you can think straight and focus on what matters most to you, supported by your body and your heart.
Thank you. Yes. So Heidi brings her gentle rebelliousness to every conversation that we have. And one of the reasons why I chose her as my co-host for this show is she has this very unique and very special perspective that she brings to every single thing that we do. And every conversation that we have, and I'm like, you know what? A different kind of approach to stuff that I'm very passionate about is exactly what it is that I think brings out the most in this experience of us doing these deep dives into superhero movies that actually are so full of rich life lessons and personal growth nuggets and ways for us to see ourselves differently and transform our lives and our stories. And Heidi is such a wonderful example of this different perspective and way of looking at things. And also, I grew up watching superhero movies, all the TV movies from the 80s and 90s and cartoons and the movies of the last 30 years or so. Heidi doesn't have that experience. So she's bringing this completely fresh perspective to this entire subject matter altogether. And if I may, I mean, Heidi, you can confirm this for yourself, but what she shared with me is I think I've converted you into becoming a superhero nerd. Is that not true?
You have, but I wouldn't go as high as like nerd yet. Like you speak in acronyms, and I'm still like blah 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 blah. I have no idea what he's talking about. This is off again. I don't know what he's talking about. But yeah, so I actually feel like I missed out on having superheroes in my life very much when you need them as you're growing up, and I was actually not allowed to watch television, lots of television, and I think we went to the cinema twice. I wasn't really allowed. I didn't have that in my life, unless I snuck around somebody else's house and managed to fit in a bit of Batman, which is why I love Batman. You know, the old da 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 pow, that one, the 60s, 70s one. Yeah, so I missed out on all this. So doing this project with you has just been deeply transformational for me, actually, because I'm able to it's like going back to childhood and grabbing the bits that you missed out on. So it's deeply healing, but it's also just so much fun.
Winner. So that's another reason why I really was. So that this idea to do these deep dives and to explore superhero movies came from just some stuff I was playing around with on LinkedIn, of all places. And the response that you guys all gave me about like, hey, there's a lot of really cool insights that you've presented just in talking about this one thing. You should do this more often. Planted the seed inside of me. So, and I use the plant the seed metaphor figuratively, yes, but also quite honestly, because I am the growth farmer for personal growth and personal development. And so seed planting and harvesting our best life, I'm very big on this metaphoric way of looking at things. And so that's exactly what you guys did when you planted that seed. But also, it was a big deal to me too, and it still is a big deal to me. On my website, which is growthfarming.com, I've got all kinds of resources for you to grow into the superhero version of yourself as embodying the version of love that your soul came here to embody before you incarnated in this thing called human existence. I've got lessons and insights on how to grow in kindness and operate from that instead of being nice, how to operate in forgiveness, how to really have a solid, strong, four-pillared self-love approach, self-love essentials, all kinds of stuff that I have on my platform. But one of the things that I have that's a free resource you can grab is called Why So Serious? And it is a little ebook that explores this idea of so much of our personal growth, spiritual growth development is very serious work, or at least we approach it as though it's very serious work, and it doesn't have to be serious. we can have more fun in this process if we will allow ourselves to have fun. And so what you just shared there, Heidi, is thank you for saying that, because that's a big part of why I do what I do. You and I are both people that enjoy life and enjoy other people, enjoy getting the opportunity to connect and grow. We don't have to be in this like serious hard work sort of place. Actually, that creates a lot of resistance and keeps the things that we want from coming into our life.
Yeah, and from my point of view as a gentle rebel coach, so for myself and my clients, one of the things that we lose is the ability to switch off easily and have fun. So we lose connection with that part of ourselves that just knows how to have fun. It becomes kind of a scheduled, trying hard thing. And so actually for me, this approach with you is fundamental. It's actually part of the gently rebellious way of doing things. It's playful on purpose, because it's the opposite of what we get stuck in, which is the pushing against ourselves, the trying really hard, the forcing ourselves through fear and pressure. So this is the antidote, it's the opposite way. So it's absolutely perfect for myself and my clients and my way of moving through the world. So thank you for the opportunity to do this with you. It's becoming more and more clear to me why we're doing this.
Oh. Well, I had intended on having a slide present for you to talk about your gently rebellious stuff. You sent me some pictures that actually didn't come through the Canva thing yet, but we'll work on that and we'll have that set up for the next episode. And I've got a thing for you to be able to talk more about your business as we get on into the rest of the show. But before we kick everything off, I want to say one thing. If you are a heart-centered business and you want the ability to really communicate who you are and the work that you do and the impact that you make on the world, what you really want to do is connect with the heart and the soul of your customers, not just try to compete with other people for their attention. When you connect with the heart and soul of your customers, that's when you're actually able to make the most difference and build the right kind of connection with them to have long-term success for both parties on down the way. And that's part of the work that I do, teaming up with Meredith Ochoa, who is one of the most brilliant, amazing, and heart-centered people you will ever meet. If you watch any of her videos and her work, and you'll feel that heart connection. The opportunity to work with us together is available to you. My email address is right there. It's dgrant@dgrantsmith.com, or message me on LinkedIn, and we'll have a conversation and talk about how we can work together to help you get your story out there. All right, let's go ahead and rock this party the right way. We're going to start off by looking at Captain America. And usually I'm a very old-fashioned person. I would normally start off with, let's say, ladies first and start with Captain Marvel, but I think it's the most appropriate way for us to kick everything off by actually starting with Captain America, because also it's the first film of the MCU series when you go back historically and look at everything. And also, this lays just the most perfect framework and groundwork for the subject that we're talking about today, which is what is it that makes a superhero a superhero. Now, I really wish, appreciate you guys and your patience. I really wish that my computer would let me see the screen clearly enough to know where the actual talking points are. Here we go. I apologize for the delay. So here we go. Okay. So one of Steve's quotes that he has in both the first Captain America movie, if you guys have seen most of the MCU films, you know that you hear Steve and see him saying this quote, "I can do this all day." Now, he's usually talking about fighting somebody, but what is at the heart of Steve is this unending passion for doing the right thing. And ultimately, when I see and hear him say, "I can do this all day," that's his heart saying, "You're not going to stop me from fighting for what I believe to be the right thing." And that's one of the things that makes a superhero a superhero. When we look at the first Captain America movie, and I'm going to just kind of go through some of the pinnacle sequences and experiences. If it's been a while since you've seen this movie, this will be a little bit of a refresher for you. If you haven't seen the movie, like I know some of you haven't, I think Sierra Sambrowski's here. She will tell me that she hasn't seen a lot of the movies that we talk about. And there was a part of me early on, Heidi and I had this conversation earlier, where I felt like people needed to watch the movie first before we discuss it, so that we're not giving away any spoilers. But here's the thing. Whether or not we are giving away spoilers doesn't really matter. The whole purpose of this show and the whole purpose of us coming together and talking about this stuff is to highlight things that will impact how, independent of the movie or the movies in this case, is a metaphoric picture of what this looks like. But independent of you seeing that film, having this kind of insight allows you to be able to embody this for yourself and step into that character, step into that superpower version of you. So looking at the movie itself, early on in the movie, Steve Rogers is this very undersized. I think he basically looks exactly like me. He's about 5'7". He maybe weighs 115 pounds. He's a super flyweight in boxing terms. He has. It's 1943. He's been trying to enlist in the military because he wants to go serve his country. And actually, he will tell a doctor at some point something very particular about why he's so passionate about wanting to join the military. And it's not to do the thing that other people are wanting to do, but he keeps getting denied. And so he's sitting in this doctor's evaluation room, and he's standing on a scale, and everybody else in the room is, a full, able-bodied man. But he's sitting in front of this doctor who has this checklist and this list of things on the criteria sheet for reasons for why he would not be good enough, why he should not be approved to go in. Among them are high blood pressure, asthma, heart trouble, sinusitis, scarlet and rheumatic fever, and a whole list of other conditions. And then the doctor starts asking him questions about his parents. Tell me about your dad. Oh, my dad died in the war. He served in this tour, blah, 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 blah. Okay. Tell me about your mom. Well, my mom died of blah, 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 blah. And so you find out early on that Steve Rogers is an orphan. And you also find out that he has all of these sicknesses, all of these disqualifying attributes to his physicalness that would disqualify him in the eyes of the military from being able to serve. But it's not his body that he is offering. It's ultimately his heart. And they go to the World's Fair, and he and his friend Bucky Barnes, who will later become another character in the MCU. I'm not going to give that away for anybody that hasn't seen it yet. But while they're at the World's Fair, Steve tries to go enlist again. And he lies on his application, which is, I think, a first or second degree felony, even though he's warned about that. But he has an exchange with Bucky, and this doctor, scientist, German, overhears it, and he's intrigued. And he ends up following Steve and finding out that Steve has falsified his application once again, and he's using a different place that he's from. But he's intrigued by, there's something about Steve and something about his character that he can tell early on. And the doctor's name is Erskine. And he goes and he gets Steve's chart, and he asks him this question. He says, "So do you want to kill Nazis?" And Steve says, "I don't want to kill anybody. I don't like bullies. I don't care where they're from." There's something really powerful about that, because everybody that was signing up for the military in that place, there's this ongoing verbiage of "let's go kill Nazis, let's go kill Nazis, let's go kill." The thing about Steve Rogers was, for him, it wasn't about going and killing anybody. It was about taking a stand and doing what was right in the face of somebody that was being overly aggressive and trying to bully other people into doing things in a different way that was not serving the greater good of humanity. Erskine recognized that in Steve. And then there's a whole nother sequence of things that take place. He gets accepted into this super soldier program, although they don't know that that's exactly what it is. But the colonel, and I forget what his name is. He's played by Tommy Lee Jones. But the colonel is looking for the right super soldier, and he has this one guy picked out. And the one guy he has picked out is, ironically, a bully. His name is Hodges. And Erskine and the colonel are having this kind of philosophical debate with each other on what it is that makes a true soldier a true soldier. Who is the best person for this role? Now, Steve is working out with these guys and he's not able to keep up. He doesn't have the physical stamina. He doesn't have the physical strength. He keeps getting bullied by Hodges and a couple other guys. There's a scene where they're running for a really long period of time. They get to a flagpole and the drill sergeant stops them and says, okay, whoever can climb up this pole the fastest and retrieve the flag can ride back in the Jeep with Agent Carter and myself. And all these guys jump on top of the flagpole and they're trying to climb up and get it and they can't. They're out of breath. And the pole is too slick. Well, Steve walks over to the pole after they've moved off to the side. Steve walks over to the pole, takes out the pins because it's not just a freestanding pole. It's actually held in by these pins. And once he takes the pins out, the whole pole falls over. The flag lands on the ground and he gently walks over, grabs the flag, throws it in the Jeep, and jumps in the Jeep with Agent Carter. Like no big deal. The fact that he saw a simple solution to what seemed to be a physical problem is another way that Steve illustrated, hey, there's more to me than meets the eye. Now, Heidi, you had a really good point about this when we were talking about it yesterday, and I want you to weigh in on some of these scenes because your perspective on this is so valuable.
I'm trying to remember which brilliant point I had now. No, I'm joking. So yeah, so first of all, I was really interested in the list. That really got to me. There's a list of things that the doctor's looking for, which I don't even believe he was bothered about. I think he took one look at Steve and just went, no way, he's going to fail. But that list really resonated with me because often I feel that we have a list for ourselves that stops us. We're automatically failing ourselves for a mission that we really long to do by having what I call, and this is one way to get rid of tons of overwhelm immediately so you can have more clarity and energy. I find that we all have secret, even to ourselves, a secret, invisible, get better at list. And it's worth writing that down. What are all of the ways I think I need to be better in order to qualify for the next step in my life, or for even just like relaxing into and living the life I've worked so hard to create? So that list really resonated with me because that list is what was between Steve doing what he wanted to do, which was enlist and fight bullies, and being able to do that. And so that was the first thing that came up to me. In what ways do I think that I'm not good enough to do what it is I want to do, what I'm being invited to do, what's opening up for me, what's already here? You know, where's it can be as simple as all of the things you need to get done before you can even just relax and enjoy what you've worked so hard for. So that list really got to me. The flagpole scene is an interesting one for me because, you know, I'm not super strong. I can't move furniture on my own. And that really resonated with me with when I was a single mom living on my own, raising 2 children. And if I needed to do anything in the house, like decorate a room, I had to move the furniture on my own. And I came up with the most flagpole type ingenious ways of moving furniture because nothing was going to stop me. And I really liked that, the way that he has to think differently. And that is part of what we love about him, is that his physical weakness makes him different, and it gives him an inner strength and resilience, and it makes him see the world in different ways because nothing's going to stop him. And I really, really liked that. And there was another thing and it's gone. What was it? Oh, something really important. It will come back to me. If it's important, it will come back. You can remind me if there was something else, because I know that you... Oh, what was it? There was something else. Oh, hey, it's going to annoy me now.
I think it'll come back. It always does.
I think mainly it was just that whole thing about what they're looking for, and the discussion between the scientists and the colonel about what they're looking for who is worthy of being the super soldier?
Yeah,
Who's worthy of having those powers? Yeah, go for it.
I'm about to get to that point. I'm about to get to that point. Was making an intentional pause here in this moment before we really get into the heart and soul of this, because like here's the thing. On this, if the subject of what is it that makes a true hero, let alone superhero, but a true hero, if that was the subject of what Captain America was really about, from a let's view this through that lens sort of place, the thesis and the dissertation for that whole thing is in the first hour of the movie. Everything from the very beginning of Steve wanting to go fight a bully on the other side of the world, but being told, no, you can't, and here's why. No, you're not good enough, and here's why. No, you aren't worthy of the opportunity to go do what it is that something in your heart is calling you to do. Everything on the outside telling him, no, you're not good enough, but that not stopping him from doing everything in his power to fulfill that mission. The fulfillment of that side of the story and that reasoning is really done in the first hour, because that's really something that you see between his relationship with him, Steve, Agent Carter in a way, but mostly Steve and Erskine. And after the transformation with the super soldier serum, and he, experiencing the transformation, becoming, 6 or 8 inches taller and gaining about 120 pounds of solid muscle, plus all the super soldier stuff that comes with being able to now run 25 miles an hour or 30 miles an hour on foot, being able to, pick up large objects and all the different things that Captain America can do with his super soldier serum. It's really not even about all that. It's really about the thing that Erskine points out to the Colonel over and over and over again. So after the flag scene, there's another sequence that happens. What Erskine tells the Colonel is, he says, because Erskine, or the Colonel's like, I don't know what it is that you see in Rogers. What I see is in Hodges. Hodges is the bully of the crew, remember? But Erskine sees Erskine sees something in Rogers that the bully will never have. Now, Heidi and I kind of disagree on the next scene that I'm going to reference, or she has a different perspective. And I really appreciate her perspective, because it's something that I had not considered before. But when we look at this from a heart-centered perspective, us heart-centered people can fall into this kind of trap, so to speak, if we're not careful. But for the illustrative purposes of the movie, this works. What happens is the doctor, I'm just going to call him the doctor instead of saying Erskine, the doctor and the Colonel are having this philosophical debate back and forth. And the doctor says, I'm for qualities beyond the physical. And the Colonel can't understand that. The Colonel says, well, you don't win wars with niceness. So he goes and grabs a grenade, pulls the pin, and throws it out into the circle, or the section where all the guys are working out. And every single man that's going to be this soldier fighting for their country, every single man flees as soon as they see the grenade. They all jump behind cars, behind whatever they can get behind to save themselves, except Steve Rogers. Steve Rogers sees it. He runs over it, and his tiny body tries to hover over it to protect everyone. And Agent Carter sees that and walks up and stands there, and he's like, guys, get away, get away. And he's like holding it and covering it up. And Hodges, the one that the Colonel had picked, is ducking behind this car, barely peering up and ducking down like, has it exploded yet? Oh, no. Every single person was operated and ruled by fear in that moment. Every single person except for Steve Rogers. Now, fear is something that embodies itself in the actions that we take. It comes to light in the way that we show up, but it's not something that is necessarily visible in our physical prowess or our physical body. And that was one of the things that Erskine, the doctor, was trying to communicate to the Colonel. And the Colonel was trying to show the doctor, well, let me show you what makes a real soldier a soldier. And the doctor didn't have to say a thing. He just looked up at the colonel and said, "Yep, you're right. Niceness doesn't win wars." There was nothing nice about what Steve did, but the thing that I heard Heidi say when we were first talking about this movie is that this can be a way of illustrating self-sacrifice in an unhealthy way. And so I want to just give you the opportunity to talk about that for just a moment, Heidi.
Yeah, so when I saw the hand grenade thing, and I get that it works for the movie, but for me personally, I was like, no, that's really bad. It really hit me quite emotionally that he was willing to die for a hand grenade. It was like, and I get he's not dying for the hand grenade. I do understand that, but it just made me think, how many times, on deeper reflection, it made me think, how many times have I behaved in that way and it wasn't good? It wasn't healthy because I didn't value myself. And I can now see that there have been too many times in my life where I have gone straight to rescuing mode when it wasn't appropriate, when there was an alternative way, when it wasn't helpful, and when it was very damaging for myself. But then, having spoken to you, and you've kind of sold me the hand grenade scene really well now. However, I would still argue there is something for those of us who tend to give to the point of self-detriment to learn from that. Is there a better way? Is there an alternative to doing what he did? Now, there isn't in that moment because it's a reaction, and his reaction is one of protection. But, you know, there are other things you can do with a hand grenade. And also, nobody's going to chuck a live hand grenade into their recruits anyway. But obviously the mind doesn't work that way. Just the prefrontal cortex shuts down and you're going with a reaction. And that was his innate reaction. And it is one of morality and goodness. However, for me, the lesson was, how many times, Heidi, have you thrown yourself on a hand grenade and it was unnecessary? So I guess the question is what does it bring out for you? What does that tell you? Would you always choose to protect other people over yourself? And I don't mean that in terms of life-saving times, because in general, we're not in life-threatening. We're very, very fortunate that at this point in history, the majority of the globe is actually very safe. But our nervous systems are reacting as if it was a hand grenade. So this is a lot to unpick there in terms of stress reactions, chronic stress, chronic overwhelm, not looking after yourself, pushing yourself to illness and unwellness, not being able to think clearly. And for me, there was a lot in that scene, which is why I'm still going to defend my point of view.
Well, you don't need to defend your point of view.
I'm defending it in, I just think he could have chucked the hand grenade somewhere else. And for me, the time when, after the flagpole, the way he gets into that Jeep and hangs out with the very attractive and very cool Agent Carter, that for me works as a metaphor for proving his worth. Because he just, there he is, this tiny guy, and he's just, beaten the rest of them by pulling the pins out of the flagpole. So he's kind of cheated, but it's super smart, and we need people like that. But the way he owns himself and he walks as the hero, as the competent soldier, and he just gets in that Jeep, that was more powerful for me than I'll dive on a hand grenade and save everybody, which is a more overtly obvious symbol of heroism. So for me, it's how he carries himself, who he is being in the world.
I appreciate you bringing up the Agent Carter side because, and this is actually what's just come to me in this moment, I realized that Agent Carter saw Steve the way that the doctor saw Steve. Because
Yes.
you can tell that she's attracted to him, but she's not attracted to him for all the reasons that, the guys would try to do something to like attract themselves to her. Like there's no bravado in Steve Rogers. There's no macho man in Steve Rogers. He's a good man wanting to do the right thing.
He's a good man who just, in his tiny frame, stands with such solidity, such strength, and such morality. And that is what's attractive about him, and that is what makes him a hero. And that's why, for me, the hand grenade scene is not even though it works beautifully in a movie way, you know, that's the time. And it's probably what the Colonel needed, because he needs something very, very obvious. But it's that inner strength. And also, it's just come to me what you've just said about Agent Carter and the doctor seeing him. That's it, isn't it? In the work we do, we see the people we work with. And when you reflect back to them, this is who I see. I see you, I hear you, what you have to say matters, who you are matters. That's really powerful. Particularly the way the doctor talks to him and says to him, which you're probably about to say, so I won't take your words away, because it's such a cool scene.
You read my vibe perfectly. Thank you. So after the whole hand grenade scene, Steve is picked to be round one for this super serum thing. And the Colonel still doesn't agree. He doesn't like the fact that he's been embarrassed by the productivity or reactions of his number one draft pick for this whole thing. But he's going to give the doctor what it is that he wants. So the night before, they're going to have the procedure to inject Steve with all the stuff and put him in the machine or whatever. The doctor goes up to his barracks and has some schnapps in 2 glasses. And he sits down with him and he says a couple of things to him that is very important. He tells Steve that he wasn't looking for a physically strong specimen, because Steve says, "Why did you pick me? The army said no to me 4 times. All of these soldiers and the colonel, they're saying no to me all at every chance they can get, but you, the one person who apparently has more power than anybody else here, maybe other than the president, you are the one person saying yes to me. Why did you pick me?" And the doctor says, "I wasn't looking for a physically strong specimen." He says, and I quote, "A strong man who's known power all of his life can lose respect for that power. But a weak man knows the value of strength and knows compassion." What Dr. Erskine could see inside of Steve was, if I give somebody power who has already known power, and like Hodges used that power or tried to use that power against other people, it's going to go in the opposite direction of what it is that we're trying to do here. We are going to create our own antithesis. And they didn't know who the Red Skull was, who is the villain in Captain America lore in comics and also in this film. They didn't know that he existed. But they would have potentially created another version of that if they would have picked Hodges to be the one to sit in Steve's place and go with round 1, which ended up being the only round, of this super soldier serum getting injected into his system. Because what Dr. Erskine says is what does he say? It changes. I've written it down. It takes what is already inside of a person and it amplifies that. Mm-hmm. So what Dr. Erskine could recognize inside of Steve was a good man, a person with a good heart. And the fact that Steve did not spend his life operating from power, he spent his life doing the best he could with his physical weaknesses. He has inherently a different kind of respect for what power can actually do. Somebody that has spent their life standing up to bullies knows exactly what it's like to be in the shoes of someone who has had to face bullies their whole life. That's what compassion is. And Dr. Erskine selectively, intentionally, consciously chose somebody that would do the best with this new amount of power that they would receive. And that is why he was chosen. Now,
can I interject with some nerdiness?
Yes, please. Absolutely.
Right, I'm going to try. So this reminds me of, now I sound like you. This reminds me of Thor and Loki. When, look at me quoting.
Look at you, winner.
Look at me. Well, I've been to your university. So with Thor and Loki, Thor really, really, really wants the throne. But by the time he's offered it, he no longer wants it. So he just has this deep humility. And it is when he doesn't want it that he most deserves it. and he walks away from it, whereas Loki's still like trying to worm his way into it. So that it really does remind me of that whole, the corrupt, power corrupts, and you can't, it's just going to bring out more of who you already are, and it's not, it doesn't change you, it just makes you more of that whole good to great, bad to worse, which is why we're looking at the heart and morality. Thank you so much for letting me nerd out on that.
Well,
but
I am so honored to get to guys. We have just experienced. Is this the dawning of a new era for Heidi, the gentle, rebellious coach?
Yeah, I think I need a little certificate where I've passed grade one superhero university.
This is a moment of history. I'm so honored to get to be a part of this. Fantastic. So, yes. No, you're exactly right. And actually, I believe that in a way, you haven't seen the story yet. So, but I'm going to give it away. I mean, it might be the next movie that we watch together for stuff. Actually, I think it would be appropriate. Mike Ashley-Brenner has been pointing out your disdain for Tony Stark since our first episode. And it might be appropriate for us to go down the Iron Man road. But
I know, I'm feeling that. I'm feeling that it is time.
So even the Tony Stark that you don't like from the Spider-Man movie, that's even a step in a higher direction of operating from more of a place of balance than the Tony Stark previous to him being Iron Man. But he has an experience in the desert where he gets taken hostage, where he has to search within his own soul and figure out who it is that he really is on the inside. And so I feel like in so many different ways, when we look at the original Avengers, all of them in their own unique way have this aspect of themselves and of their character that when you do the deep dive inside their heart, you get into this different reason for why it is that they do what they do. They have their own individual reasons, but it's more about their heart than it is that necessarily their superpowers. And we're going to dig into that deeper in just a moment when we dig into the story of Captain Marvel. But before we do that, I want to kind of wrap everything up with Captain America, because there's so much just great, amazing nuggets and jewels of wisdom inside the Captain America story that goes even beyond. I mean, the action's great, the fight scenes, and once he gets his shield and he goes and blitzkriegs almost single-handedly to rescue his buddy from being taken prisoner, and does something that the colonel wasn't going to allow to happen, and brings back troops that the army was basically going to write off as saying they were missing in action, or they were destroyed or killed or whatever. When he comes and does that, and finally, in a way, shows himself to the colonel as, I was the best choice. You didn't believe in me, but I'm still honoring you, sir. Because, that was it. Steve broke orders and went and rescued his buddy. And after he brings his buddy and their whole platoon back, he walks straight up to the colonel and says, "Sir, I'm going to resign for derelict of duty. I disobeyed orders, and I'm gonna take my bow now."
So cool.
Which is the right thing to do. It's the moral thing to do. But even in that moment, finally, the pieces connect, the dots connect for the colonel. And he's like, no, you don't need to do that. I want you on my team.
So cool. So satisfying.
There's obviously more to the movie than this, but for the purposes of our time together today, guys, this is where I want to leave the Steve Rogers Captain America part. And my hope is that you guys, if you've seen this film and any of the other Captain America movies, that now you will look at this character and any of the other superhero characters from.
There's more Captain America coming.
Oh, there's 3 Captain America movies, and there's
3 Captain. Right, I'm on it.
There's 4 Avengers movies that you haven't seen yet. So you and Simon are going to have all kinds of fun.
Yes. Although he'll refuse to watch some of them, no doubt.
That's unfair. Well, you get to have fun either way.
He's not at your university, is he?
We need to bring Simon onto the university. Yes, agreed. Superhero University. And by the way, anybody else watching, if you guys want to enroll in Superhero University with Heidi and I as both the deans and professors, and maybe I can imagine Kevin coming on and Melissa as well coming on as professors, and we got to bring Mike in, or he's gonna claim to disown me as a friend.
Yeah.
Yeah, classes will start. Classes will start in the fall. All right, let's transition into the other big captain for our.
Can I just say something about, like, there's a question there I just have to geek out on. Like, yes. What do you admire about Captain America? What do I admire about Captain America? He's just so cool because he's so solid. He's so strong because he has such a strong moral compass. That's what I love. That's my biggest thing. I love Captain America. I didn't expect to say that. I didn't even know he was. And now I do. And he's brilliant. And yeah.
Well, on this subject, I've done this for every episode that we've done, including the preview episode that I think 20 people saw when we did Superman, Man of Steel. But I'm wearing my Captain America shirt.
Woohoo!
Somehow I have been lucky enough to have a T-shirt of all the heroes that we've done. I don't have a Captain Marvel shirt, but if you happen to have a Captain Marvel shirt, rock it out, take a picture, and send it to us, and we'll include it in the next iteration. Okay, thank you guys for tuning in, and appreciate your camaraderie, and yes, Sierra, it's gonna be okay. We're gonna Iron Man's the only. That's fun. Okay, well then you'll definitely get a lot out of us exploring Iron Man. We might be consulting you for inside points on that. That's fun stuff. Thank you for that. I appreciate it. So we're gonna dig into the next character for
the best character ever. From my, I've watched 3 films, but the best character ever. I love Captain Marvel so much.
Now, what you shared with me, and I please nerd out on this, because it felt to me like when we were talking about this after you watched the Captain Marvel and Captain America movie, you communicated to me that not only did you become a fan of Captain Marvel, but she's now your favorite superhero, right?
Yeah, and okay, so I haven't. That's not like a big field, but I don't think anybody can take her place. I'm that committed now. I'm all in on Captain Marvel. I really, really loved Captain Marvel. In fact, I need to watch the film again, which is just not something I do. I miss her. Does she have more films coming for me?
There's a new film that's out called
like all the ones, the 20 million I haven't watched. Does she appear again?
Oh yes, well she definitely appears in Avengers Endgame. She's got a pretty prominent role in that. That's the most recent Avengers movie and the one that ends the Thanos saga. But there's about 15 movies in that whole saga, so you've got quite a bit of catching up to do for that.
I can hang out with her again then. Yeah, she's awesome. I love her.
So here's what I would like, since I broke down a lot of the plot points and ways of illustrating the signature points of Captain America's heart being the thing that made him a superhero. Will you kind of give us a breakdown of Carol Danvers, aka Captain Marvel's journey?
Yeah, I don't have your professorship on this, but and also the way I do it, you're probably going to have to interject with real facts about this. So anyway, first of all, I want to thank you so much for introducing me to this movie. I honestly thank you so much. From the moment I switched it on, I was like, oh my goodness. I just loved it. I love this movie. And so the bits I point out won't be like you would do it, obviously, but that's okay. So the first thing for me was this I don't know, this is a bit weird, right? I kind of felt like when I'm in a movie, I feel the movie. I'm very, very sensitive. So I came out of Titanic feeling soaking wet and freezing cold. That's pretty normal for me. You know, I get very, very in it. I disappear into it. I embody the movie, which is why I have to be really careful what I watch. So there was something about her that struck a chord with me on a very cellular level. Like I could feel myself in her. It just made sense to me, like the way she walked, and there was just a lot about her that was just felt very relatable. Whereas normally when I watch women on the screen, I feel separate from them because there's a lot of feminine movie character posturing, which I'm not, which makes me feel slightly like there's nothing to do with me, because I don't know, it's a separate thing. It's an on-screen version of a woman. Whereas for me, Captain Marvel is an on-screen version of a woman I can relate to because she's so grounded. She walks with such strength. She walks upright as a strong human who's female. So she's attractive because she's herself. She's feminine in a very, this is just who I am. I'm strong and I'm female and this is me. Now, I know we've got the whole, there's a lot of fighting at the beginning, and I'm not a fighter, but there was something about how she embodied the being a woman but not doing the pouty stuff that was so refreshing for me. And just, that was what was connective. It was, she just is. She's just strong and she's a woman. And she doesn't try, she's not trying to be a tough man, but she's also not being the movie star version of being female. And that was just very powerful for me personally. So there was that at the beginning. And then there's this whole, she has a real sense that something's off. So she has this sensitivity to being lied to. And that was very important to me. So first of all, I was so excited Jude Law was in the film. Jude Law's in it. I'm like, oh my God, Jude Law's in it. I was so excited because he's always such a nice guy. So it was slightly distressing to find that he wasn't a nice guy.
Not at all.
Not at all. But he gets away with it. And the reason he gets away with it, well, he's Jude Law, but also because of how she handles it, how she gets to be strong. She doesn't have to beat him to reclaim herself. She does it it's such a clever script. So the first line I'd like to quote is, self-doubt makes you weak. So that scene is where she's waking up having these really weird dreams and she doesn't know what they are and they're disturbing her sleep. So she goes to see Jude Law and he says, oh, you're having weird dreams again. You know, it's nothing. It's nothing. So he dismisses it. It's nothing. Self-doubt makes you weak. So when he says self-doubt makes you weak, I'm like, well, he's a good guy because that's right. Self-doubt does make you weak. And then we find out he's misusing that, which is really bad. Like, don't misuse transformational words in order to mess with somebody's identity. How dare you, Mr. Jude Law? You may be cute and attractive, but you don't get to do that. So mean, so wrong. So then, but then he messes things up for me because he's one sentence and he's out as the good guy. So he says, you need to control your emotions so you can master your powers. Emotions are a problem. Use your head only. And that I was like, no, he's Jude Law and he's saying something is wrong that I don't. And there was a real cognitive dissonance, a whole physical dissonance. I'm like, oh my God, this is just wrong. You can't say that. And the one thing that I learned from my retraining with Zen Master was this whole idea of we have this triangle of, so if you split the triangle, so it's 3 ways: head, so mind, heart, body. And you always have this, you don't use your head only. You using the body and the heart to support the mind. And here's Jude Law going against everything I know to be true by saying, use your head only. Now, I don't disagree with his idea that you need to master your emotions, because emotions are a very strong energy and you don't want to just go off and be fully heart-led without the solidity of being in your body and looking after yourself. and being grounded and solid, and also using your smart mind. But yeah, that, what an opening. And all this happens really fast. This is the beginning of the movie, and I'm like right in there. I'm right in there with, I don't understand, why have they made Jude Law dodgy? And then and so the story becomes a true hero story. She has to go back and remember who she is by facing really painful memories. I mean, incredibly painful memories, so that she can rewrite a story. And then she's overcoming weakness in order to claim her superpowers. So it's a very, in many ways, it's a very human story. It's a very normal story, even though she becomes the most in fact, not even though, it is a human story, and she becomes the most powerful. Yes. Apparently, people have told me, the most powerful superhero in your university. So that is it for me. The fact that she has this solidity in her body. She is, I am here and this is me. She's not doing weird movie star pouty stuff. She just is. There's something so refreshing about that. And then she has to go back and reclaim herself through those painful memories. The traditional hero story, which is human nature, which is our story. And then she's so powerful because she accepts who she is. She reconnects to herself and she is free. So that's why it's so powerful. The next scene I've got is where she says, I've been fighting with one hand behind my back. What if I set myself free? And that I love, because freedom is, as you know, my number one value, and finding the freedom to be yourself through using, freedom from overwhelm, is because overwhelm is the thing that's in your way of connecting to yourself. So for me, that it's all about, my work is about making the freedom to find yourself into your greatest adventure. So self-development, self-growth becomes fun, becomes lighter, because it's serious work. So let's make it lighter. And so that, what if I set myself free? That really resonated, because it's about freedom. And then what she does is she does harness her emotions, because she has to, because she has all this power. And then, but it's her humanness. It's standing in her humanness of knowing who she is and really standing feet on the ground strong. That's when she becomes super powerful, and she can cope with anything. So once she's got that, once she's just harnessed, she can literally cope with anything, because she's so strong in who she is. But also, like Captain America, she's very moral. She's incredibly moral. And that's why she gets to have those powers, because she knows who she is. She has the right heart-centered compass. She has the courage to go back and face incredibly painful memories, reclaim herself. She's open and vulnerable because she loves. She has close friends. She's human, and she's by the end of the movie, she's both powerfully human and loves. So she's vulnerable, and she's the most incredible flying, zooming around, like just that power of just going. That reminded me of childhood dreams where you are, I don't know about you, I was escaping from the scary things, and I learned to fly, and just that very physical nature of, she's deciding she's going there and she goes there. It's like, whoa. And she's just incredible, and she's zooming all over the place, saving everybody. But there's one more scene I'd like to mention, which I think is probably the coolest scene ever. So right at the end, where she's facing the baddie, Mr. Jude Law, Mr. Cutie Jude Law, being sneaky baddie. He has been holding her back. It is outrageous. How dare he? I will forgive him because he's Jude Law, but not in this movie. He's holding her back by lying to her. I'm really not good with lying. I'm just really not good with lying. And then she just says, I have nothing to prove to you, because she doesn't. She has nothing to prove. She doesn't have to do anything. She doesn't have to beat him up. She doesn't do anything. She does. She just, and then he's that's it. But it's just, I have nothing to prove to you. To me, that is standing in your strength. That is saying, this is who I am. And that for me is that relates to the gentle rebellion, because the gentle part of the rebellion. So the rebellion is taking back your power, your strength, and where you've scattered it everywhere by trying to be something you're not. But the gentle bit's very strong, It's very important. It is in the end not being shouty and feisty and saying, justifying my existence and why I want to do it this way and why I'm saying yes to that and no to this and why I can't do this and whatever. It's no justification. It's just quite simply standing in your power like she does and saying gently but firmly, this is who I am. That's it. Just that. This is who I am. No excuses, no explanations. This is just who I am. This is how things are for me. I say yes to this and no to this. I know who I am. I know my superpowers. I'm not perfect, but this is who I am. And I love and accept myself. So that for me, oh my goodness. And so just to me, it's see what happens when you free yourself from self-doubt. Look out, world.
Well, you brought up all of the key points that I wanted to bring up too. So I
get a certificate.
Absolutely. The only real difference here for us, Heidi, and maybe this is my version of your take on Tony Stark. I think that Jude Law is a douchebag. So I'm not a fan of his at all. So when he showed up as the villain in this, I'm like, well, that's an appropriate role for him, because I don't have the I'm not fawning over him or whatever. I might be misjudging him. So if Jude Law or anybody, that maybe calling him a douchebag is a inappropriate.
It's a bit harsh. Did you not see The Holiday? He's such a nice guy in The Holiday. No.
I did see The Holiday. I've seen him be a very rude and very I've seen him play a bully in quite a few films, and it just has always bothered me.
Oh, okay. Well, obviously, I need to watch more movies. Clearly, always.
But what I will add to that though is he does a great job of showing the effects of somebody that can be highly manipulative, and that's one of the things that he does to Carol. I mean, they call her Veers the half of the movie because she has part of her dog tag that just says VER. And so okay, we're going to give her the name Veers. That must be who she is. But the entire time she doesn't know, because she doesn't remember, her name is Carol Danvers, not Veers. And so just like what you said about how she has to be willing to go back in time, in a way, go back into these memories that keep coming to her while she's sleeping, and she doesn't know what it's all about. But it's also this is actually a really powerful personal growth and spiritual growth lesson, because our subconscious mind will communicate to us things that we need to process in our dreams to get our attention, so that we'll focus on the deeper inner stuff and do that deeper inner healing to bring about the transformation that we want. There's a lot of trauma that Carol experienced, and her subconscious mind, her dreams, are trying to get her attention to steer her back to the things that you're trying to figure out that don't make any sense to you in your conscious life are actually deeper in here. If you will explore your history and allow yourself to remember, then you'll see what it is that actually happened, and you'll be able to put those pieces together for yourself. And you'll be able to choose yourself. And that's what leads to when she's having the fight scene or whatever with Supreme Intelligence, Annette Bening.
Annette Bening, honestly.
And
she was me.
Annette Bening is presenting herself as something other than what she really is. The whole thing is really, in so many ways, Captain Marvel is a psychological story.
It is. And that's why, I think it's probably why it resonated, because you and me, we like to have deep conversations. And the lying thing, the pretending to be other than you are, that's a big no-no in my world. I don't really tolerate that. I have a very, very strong sense, and she has that strong sense. So I'm behind her all the time going, something's off, but she feels it. Whereas I don't actually like films where there's a lot of suspense and you're kind of trying to transmit your spidey sense, like the stupid films where there's something scary outside and people go outside. Why would you go outside when there's something scary outside? But that's a different genre. But I don't like that, because I'm just like, don't go outside. Just don't. And I don't do suspense. I literally don't do suspense. But in this, she has that sense, and I love that she has that sense once she is able to claim that for herself and start to trust herself more than external influences. And they're very, very strong. I mean, he's Jude Law is her main person, you know, her boss, her mentor, absolutely everything. And Annette Bening's supposed to be this like super being. So you would expect both of those to be trustworthy. There is no reason like to question them. It was going very much against the universe that she's living in. So that takes a lot of courage. And I think that can be true for all of us, or a lot of us, can't it? The need to question very strong influences in our lives and reclaim what feels right to us. And that self-trust is very important, which is why the line about self-doubt makes you weak, is so clever, because it's true. But nothing else he says is true. And that ability to plant this half truth in somebody, to screw with their mind, that's true manipulation. So such a good film. I learnt loads. I'm still learning loads. I'm going to watch it again. I love it. Even if we weren't recording this, I'd be having these discussions with you. I mean, it's just so much in it for me personally.
Likewise.
And she flies at the end, and she's just like beating everything up as well. On top of that, she is a true, you know, superhero character doing the most cool things. You know, there's no like running out of batteries on your suit, running out spider webs when the webs don't work anymore. There's none of that. She just is pure determination and what's the opposite of self-doubt? Self-belief. Yeah, so she believes she can fly and save, and so she flies up and saves. So to me, that is a real strong sense of the mind, body and heart working together, and that self-belief coupled with, you want her to have that kind of mega power because she has such a strong moral compass, and because she is so human. She loves, she cares, she has that vulnerability. The people she cares about could die, and that is such a, and she's already had a lot of loss, so that's a deep possible wound, but she turns that into love and action for people, and I love that.
Once she comes into her power, and when she pulls the thing on the back of her neck off, when she has that line, I've been fighting with one hand tied behind my back this entire time. But what happens if I just let go? For me, I was like, dude, yeah, bring it on, because she became Captain Marvel. She became the Marvel version of Superman. And you'll see this, Heidi, as you watch the rest of these films. Anytime that Captain Marvel shows up, it's the game-changing moment. The entire thing
I'm
could
not
be
surprised. Look at her. She's my favorite person. Not person, superhero.
Well,
you know what I mean?
At the end, almost at the end of the Captain Marvel movie, the character that's got the big spaceship out in space that's going to basically nuke the world is Ronan. And Ronan is the bad guy in the first Guardians of the Galaxy movie. He thinks that he is on par with Thanos, the Mad Titan, who almost destroys or does destroy half of the universe. But he thinks he's just going to bomb whatever's down there and take it over. And Carol flies up, blows up all of his nuke missiles, blows up an entire spaceship on her own, flies out in front of him, and basically does this whole bam, you sure you want to tangle with me, bub?
And that is not too bashy. Can you see the difference?
Well, and yes. So
the bashiness is when they destroy lots of good stuff in order to reach one bad thing they want to destroy. Whereas what she's doing is destroying lots of stuff we don't want in one go. That's appropriate bashiness. There's the difference for you.
And let's also just use a little bit of terminology here. So Heidi is very much opposed to the word, or opposed to the term bashiness, which is needless violence for the sake of needless violence, which
destroying of entire cities, entire streets, entire rows of cars, apparently on this moral route to catch one baddie. Like, you've just killed loads of innocent bystanders. That doesn't make any sense to me. Like, if you're going to take out half of New York, I have to ask why. That's too bashy. Also, for me, watching it as somebody who feels everything in a movie very deeply, it's quite tiring, because it's just like, oh, there's more noise. There's more stuff that needs to be put back together. And I'm taking on the kind of job of rebuilding. So
Yes,
yes.
agreed. So with that in mind, let's just do a little bit of a more of a kind of a discussion point on pointing out how Carol in her exhibition of what it is that makes a hero a hero. I'm curious for you guys, and feel free to put your answers to these questions in the chat box, and let's discuss this. But how has our kind of exploration of her journey, how does that resonate with your own experiences of overcoming challenges? Maybe those challenges involve overcoming manipulation, or maybe it involves like you fully embracing yourself and your story and your past and discovering your inner strength. I'm curious about that. And Heidi, if you'd like to kind of weigh in for yourself, because her story resonates so much with you, would you be willing to kind of share a little bit of your perspective on that?
I would, but I'm trying to remember what were the points I had before when we talked about it yesterday. Can you jog my memory?
Well, I think one of the things that you shared with me, and this kind of goes into what you were talking about a minute ago about with supreme intelligence being Annette Bening's character being this supposedly this like all-knowing, all-powerful entity that's basically been telling Carol, this is what you're supposed to be doing, and I'm leading you in this whole thing. Um, you and I both grew up in very religious households and were really kind of indoctrinated in some beliefs that were, at least from my perspective, presented as though this is the only way that it is, and you have to agree with this way of thinking and this way of doing, and you can't see anything outside of this. It's a very narrow-minded way of looking at things. And also, from my story and my perspective, it was rejecting all kinds of other people in the world and their viewpoints and their belief systems and their ideas, because there's only one right way. And
yeah,
what
so
I
yeah, sorry, go on. That resonates.
One of the things that I gained from watching Carol's story is her willingness to explore her own journey, opened herself up to the fact that there are other possibilities. And anybody that comes in and tries to say, I know all the answers, I have all the things, and you're going to do things just my way, is somebody that inherently needs to be questioned. Because what if there's something other than that? And once Carol allows herself to feel the power within herself and take that manipulative brainwashing tool off of her neck, then she's suddenly opened up to the fact that no, wait, all of intelligence actually already exists within me. And that's true for all of us. Ultimate intelligence exists in all of us because we all come from the same source. We're not like separated out and then get to reject certain people for other things. Like there's more of a oneness to this whole thing than there is separation and division. And that was something that I gained from watching this movie.
Yeah, I mean for me, I grew up in a very strict religious household, which I was told my opinion didn't count repeatedly, which makes it very, very difficult. Self-trust has been a big issue for me, self-belief, self-trust. And yes, so when Carol deals with Annette Bening, that's very helpful. I think that's very powerful for me, even though I have dealt with those childhood issues. You know, I'm 55, so I dealt with that kind of stuff a long time ago. But it still reinforces that determination to find a way that feels right for me, to be open to maybe there's an easier way, maybe there's a more aligned way, maybe there's in my case a more gently rebellious way, which would mean is there a choice here of how I go through my day which is better for me as opposed to the way people around me are doing it. So that forcing ourselves to overwork in order to achieve the fear-driven way to create a business, you know, the fear and scarcity way, as opposed to the way the Hounds works, which is about generosity and reciprocity and just that very heart-centered service, but without doing the hand grenade thing where you self-sacrifice. Yeah. So I think for me it's the way, I'll come back to it again, the standing very connected to the ground, with her strength before she has the superpower strength, the strength that she is as a person, and knowing who she is and finding her way back to herself by finding the truth about her story, and that self-belief and resilience, that's it for me. That's why she's my hero, not the flying around, zooming around, doing the fun stuff, saving the universe stuff. That's great, but that's not what it is for me. It's the reconnecting to herself, the daring, the having the courage to face what's going on. She's very, very powerful.
Well, what you just said about her reconnecting with herself, one of my favorite scenes, it's actually kind of a sequence of sorts, but when she recollects the different moments in her life, like when she was a little girl.
Yeah. Sorry, go on, do that one.
When she's a little girl and she gets knocked down and she falls down and then she stands up, but as she's standing back up, they transition over into another moment in her life when she fell down and she stood up several years later, and then transitioning over to when she was in basic training and she falls off the rope and all of those different moments that resonated with me so much, because how many of us, I want to say all of us in our lives, we've been knocked down and we had the choice of, am I going to stay down or am I going to get back up? And all of you guys know how big of a fan I am of Rocky. That is, one of Rocky's most infamous lines is, it's not how hard you hit, it's how much you can get hit and keep moving forward. How much you can take and keep moving forward. That's how winning is done.
And we move forward by changing how we look at the story. So the really cool thing, which we did discuss previously, which I've forgotten and now brilliantly remembered, ta-da, is that those very scenes, when they are drip fed as lost memories throughout the movie before, when she reclaims them, they are presented as weaknesses. So all the time she's remembering all the time she was knocked down, and it's like, oh my goodness, I was rubbish. And then there comes this beautiful scene where they run through all of those fast, and she's looking at them not as times. She sees instead the complete picture, which was she was knocked down, but she always got back up again. And the way she stands, that's it, I was going to mention her hands. There's something about, she's not clenching her fists in an angry way. She just closes her fists and she has them like that. She's doing that as a child. She's always got, throughout, when that memory is consolidated and seen for what it really is, she always has that very strong posture. I am strong, even as this tiny little girl who's just been knocked down. So, thank you for remembering that scene. That is a very powerful scene, because it's such a good visible representation of the process of self-development, of deep personal transformation.
Well, just like you said, and I had forgotten that until you brought it up, her getting knocked down was presented to her as though, well, you're just this little human. You need to, you don't know yet, you haven't figured it out yet, but that's why we're in charge. And if you'll do things our way, Jude Law and Annette Bening's characters, if you'll just if you'll follow a line, if you'll follow along with what it is that we say, because we're in charge, do what we say. We're going to manipulate you into following us blindly. But once she takes the manipulation goggles off, or the little manipulation thing that's on the back of her neck, once that's off and they can't control her anymore, and she can feel for herself, now she can view her own story completely differently. Now it's just like you said. Now all of those times where she fell down or got knocked down, she's chose to get back up with that determination of, this isn't who I really am, is not somebody that stays down. Who I really am is somebody that continues to get up and continues to fight for what's right, for what I believe to be.
Which means she was always the strong woman she is, even when she was a little girl. She's not really changing, and I think that's important for all of us. Yes, we're always changing, but there's this inner core of strength that's always there.
And that harmonizes perfectly with the Captain America story too, because Captain America, Steve Rogers, was always that person. The only thing that changed for him was he was given physical attributes that harmonized in a way, but amplified the heart that was already inside of him. And the same thing with Carol. She always
Yeah.
had that inner strength. The only thing that changed was she was given physical abilities that amplified what was already inside of her. And I
Yep.
think that's the best place for us to really transition into closing out our time together today, because we have been at this for about an hour and a half. I really appreciate all of you guys. Here's the big thing. The thing that makes a superhero is not the physical skills. Even when you take the stuff like we looked at last week with Spider-Man and all of his abilities, and we've looked at Captain Marvel and Captain America, we can go through all of the Avengers. We can even go on the DC side of things. And if we want to talk about bashiness, DC movies are notorious for the most bashiness you can ever get. There's bashiness everywhere. But for all of those characters, the thing that actually makes them the hero that they are, the difference between a hero and a villain is what is on the inside, and what it is that we choose to do with our experiences, and who it is that we choose to be in the belief system that we have about ourselves, and how it is that we choose to show up in the world. And as heart-centered leaders, each and every one of us here, as heart-centered leaders, it is our prerogative, and it's also our responsibility to harmonize that goodness that we have within us and live that out, be the human embodiment of that, and then influence and inspire and work with the people that we serve to help call that goodness out of them. To be like Professor Erskine, Dr. Erskine, who sees, like Heidi was saying, who sees the good in others and calls that out of them and helps bring that out. And that is a big part of the work that I do, and that's a big part of the work that Heidi does. And I want you to just give us a little bit more of an insight into your work for just a moment, Heidi.
Oh, okay. So, actually, we haven't got long, so can I just make everyone aware that I've got a really, really cool promotion on my audio course, From Overwhelm to Ease. Overwhelm is tricky, and it's a trickster, and it blocks you from being able to step into your power and have clarity and move forward in the way and live the life that you really want to live. So this course is at a huge discount for a limited amount of time. I'd really recommend you go and check it out. If you go to my website, it comes up at the top, or just drop me a line on LinkedIn. So yeah, I just help you. I just help you. Listen to me. I'm a deeply transformational, I'm a powerful coach. I work at a deeply transformational level, but in a way that's enjoyable and fun and incredibly empowering, because I believe there's nothing wrong with you and all the answers are inside of you. And having the privilege of guiding you back to yourself, just like Captain Marvel does, is what I do really well. So yeah, drop me a line, come and say hello on LinkedIn. I also have a podcast if you just want to get to know me better.
Winner. Highly, highly, highly recommend you guys checking out and connecting with Heidi. She blesses my heart and my life. Every single conversation that we have and interaction is such a beautiful gift to me. So thank you for being the gently rebellious coach, and thank you for bringing your gentle, rebellious presence and perspective to these superhero conversations, Heidi. It's an absolute gift to me.
Thank you for letting me watch movies as part of my work and hang out with you and discuss this. It's just brilliant. Thank you.
You're very welcome. Well, a big part of the work that I do is helping you transform the story that you tell yourself. And like we said at the very beginning, for those of us in entrepreneurial business, doing the stuff that Heidi does, doing the stuff that us heart-centered business leaders do, we are trying so much to make a positive impact on the world. And the ways that we do that, though, sometimes we can come across as we're trying to do something we've seen somebody else do because that's what works. But when we're doing that, we're playing mind games in a space where what we're actually doing is serving people's hearts and serving their heart-led journey. So being this heart-led leader that you are, my invitation to you is to get out of the competition of trying to compete for attention. It doesn't work. What really works is connecting with the heart and souls of your customers and allowing your message, the things that you talk about, the ways that you present yourself, especially in the online digital space of social media, whether that's LinkedIn or YouTube or Facebook or anywhere else, connecting on this level. And that's the work that I do, teaming up with my good friend and fellow heart-centered leader, Meredith Ochoa. We put together a storytelling for business plan and outline an interview with you for you to hear with your own words and speak with your own mouth the ways that you are impacting people's lives and making transformations, because that's the thing that's going to make the connection point in here. So to get in on that and to bring us into your story to help transform the way that you market yourself to grow your business, all you have to do is connect with me. My email address is dgrant@dgrantsmith.com, or you can send me a message on LinkedIn. Would love the opportunity to have a conversation with you, hear about your story, and see how we can put our superpowers together. Appreciate all of you guys for coming in and being a part of today's episode. This has been episode number 2 of the Hero Story Garden Mastercast. That's right, Masterclass meets podcast. Absolute joy and pleasure of getting to be with you guys and exploring 2 of my favorite movies and 2 of my favorite heroes, Captain Marvel and Captain America. Heidi, thank you so much for tag teaming with me again. This has been an absolute joyride. I appreciate you.
I appreciate you. Thank you.
All right, you guys have a wonderful rest of the day, and we'll see you again next time.